All right, team, it is 5:30. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of February 15th School Board to order. Thanks everybody for being here. If you would please join me for a moment of silence. Now, we will go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Jeff Arnott, Executive Director for CTE.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Pledge of Allegiance, our national anthem will be performed by St. Cloud Middle School choir students.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose path shines and bright stars through the perilous fight. What so proud we was were so gallantly streaming on the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. Our mission statement will be read by Sherry Reneka, and our interpretation services will be led by Dr. Lestenia Peñalosa.
Mission statement of Osceola County is to inspire all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Good evening, my name is Dr. Lestenia Peñalosa and I am here to provide interpretation services. Buenas noches, mi nombre es la doctora Lestenia Peñalosa y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de interpretación.
Thank you. Now is the time that we center ourselves and ask our board members to give positive comments. Today I'll go ahead and do it sequentially. So, board, if you don't mind, I'd like to go first. I have several today, which is weird for me. So first, I'd like to congratulate Kissimmee Middle School's Odyssey of the Mind team. They placed 5th overall in the competing state competition, and it looks like they're going to state on March 12th. So, congratulations, and if you know anybody that goes to that school, make sure you congratulate them and support them on March 12th. I would also like to thank the board as well as our legislative team for allowing me to attend the legislative session this past week. I was able to advocate on behalf of Florida School Board Association and on behalf of our school board. And some of the things that I advocated for were to provide an increased funding for mental health. We all know that the past 18 months have been insane for all of us, and that we really need to make sure that we are supporting not only our students, but also our staff. So we were advocating for both students and staff. We also advocated to provide multiple Snapchats throughout the year of learning rather than just one state test. And we also advocated for an increased base student allocation, which helps us to fund our districts. So So these are just some of the things that I was able to advocate for on behalf of not only Florida School Board Association, but also on behalf of our school district. I want to thank all of our delegations, so that includes Representative Hawkins, Senator Victor Torres, Representative Kristen Arrington, and I was also able to meet with Education Appropriations Chair Senator Broxton and Representative Latvala, who is the chair of the Education and Employment Committee. This is a big deal because they were not seeing other board members, so I was able to advocate on your behalf, and I thank everybody who helped me prepare for that meeting. And last but not least, again, team, a moment of privilege, personal privilege. I do want to recognize two students from Celebration High School who are here. And I am definitely taking a page out of your book, Mr. Melendez.
Go ahead. Students are while we're here.
Absolutely. So I want to recognize Sonia Pinedo and Sofia Reyes. You guys can come up, please. So these incredible young ladies are innovators, and I say that with the fullest confidence. They are both seniors at Celebration High School. You're both in IB, correct? Correct. And they saw a need. There was a challenge with students being able to get tutoring that really reflected how they learn. And as a result of that, they created their own tutoring program. And it is high tech, you guys. It is a high tech tutoring service that they created out of nothing from scratch. And they're planning on making it not only something that they want to implement here in Osceola County, but maybe even something that goes beyond Osceola County, and it should. So did you guys want to talk a little tiny bit about the project that you guys did, how it works?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, our tutoring program involves both tutoring and a mentoring aspect. So, with the mentoring aspect, we would like to emphasize the importance of quality over quantity and help students be able to understand content in depth rather than having them practice busy work. So, the way we do our tutoring, we help students with their organization skills, their study skills. The first session we have with students is with Sonia and me. It's not with any specific other tutor. We like to ask them questions about their lifestyle, their extracurriculars, and simply about their temperament as well, to see what kind of learner they are, in order to help them develop the skills that are appropriate for the type of learner they are, and an organization system that helps the lifestyle they live. So, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, especially after COVID hit, I feel that there's a lot of miscommunication between just teachers and students, and just the stress of having to balance work life, family life, and school life. So I hope that our program has been helping and will continue to help students kind of find this balance and find other people who are dealing with the same situations that they are, so that they could kind of create a community and take initiative and practice what they preach.
Awesome. So I wanted to just give them some support. This is the reason that every single one of you is here, and I know that at the end of the day we're here for students, so I wanted to focus us on that. So with that, here is a certificate and a $25 gift card from Amazon. Thank you. There you go. And if you guys would please send the presentation and the website to our board members, I would love for them to be able to see it, and hopefully we can implement this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, I had the honor of attending the Crossing Guard Appreciation Breakfast. As we all know, crossing guards are technically the employees of the Sheriff's Office or law enforcement, but what they do, 80–90% of the mission is taking care of our kids. And what will we do without our crossing guards? As we know, last week, even at the board meeting, we talked about some incidents, but the fact is, most of these folks, are retired or doing something else and decide to dedicate their time. They don't get paid a whole lot of money. Some of them even volunteer. But the work they do to ensure that our kids are safe crossing back and forth to school or going back home is paramount, because if our kids aren't going to school, they can't learn. And so they're really an extension of what we do at the school district. And so on behalf of the school board, I just really want to tell every single crossing guard out there that we really appreciate everything that you do. And what a segue to that, because today I didn't realize that it was National SRO Appreciation Week. But it's at the national level. Maybe we can do something for them at the next board meeting. But our SROs are basically our law enforcement officers at the campus. A lot of them take pride in schools. A lot of them are coaching. A lot of them are mentoring students after school. A lot of them are going above and beyond just protecting this campus from a guard standpoint. As a matter of fact, when we did the SRO task force, we started discussing all the different things and the need for an SRO presence, especially as we see nationwide, there's so much an increase in violence and other issues and incidents that it's nice to know that we have a sworn deputy or law enforcement officers in our schools available to not only protect the students, but to protect our staff and also our physical facilities. So I just really want to say on behalf of the school board, or hopefully I can, but at least on my behalf, I can say we appreciate every single SRO that participates in our schools. Last but not least, I did attend the OTEC, Institutional Advisory Board. It's one of my committee assignments that I have, and that is, Osceola Technical College is a college. A lot of folks think that it's just passed and it's just high school, the students that are dual enrolled, but we actually try to get students that are on a career path that they want to say, wait a second, college may not be for me. I may want to be a plumber. I may want to be an HVAC. I may want to work with my hands and do something that can actually generate something more than a minimum wage. And so that's what we're looking at. And so 3 things came out of that meeting that we that were really important. And they are they want to have reps from different agencies there, because we didn't see somebody from the healthcare field. We did see an HVAC and we did see an auto mechanic, but we want to try to get more companies aligned, because as part of the focus groups that Dr. Pace has been holding lately, a lot of times the people have been saying they want these students to not just learn the skill, but have an internship or apprenticeship. And I know Dr. Scott, Dr. Arnott, I'm thinking Toho, Dr. Arnott and Tim Burdett at CTE, they were there as well, and they know that's an important mission. And so the other thing they mentioned too was before we used to bus students on a full school bus, and transportation was becoming an issue for students who want to attend some of these CTE programs. So it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we're trying to look at maybe using vans or shuttles or other things to be able to get some of these students back and forth, and that way it's not as expensive for the school district to be able to do that and get more participation from students in our vocational programs. And the last thing that we talk about, and that's something maybe we can speak with Mr. Clinch about, is we have a lot of construction contracts underway now. We're doing our transportation depot. We're going to be doing, I think, Celebration Village, maybe OXA coming down the line. That we have a couple construction programs, not just at OTEC, but I think St. Cloud and Poinciana High School also have that. Maybe we can get some students there working on those projects, or maybe they can sponsor them to do an apprentice or get the hours that they need. Since we're already paying the construction companies to be there, why not try to get as much student participation as possible? So with that, I think I got a head nod, so I'm pretty excited about it. So thank you guys for CTE for all you do.
Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, so we may have a celebrity in the making in one of our schools. It's a young student named Tiger. He goes by the Autistic Tiger. This is one of his drawings that he made for me. He is an extremely talented young student who is really doing great things at our schools. He was at the fair, and a lot of interest has been placed in this child for his abilities. But it's probably best if you yourself go out and look at our Autistic Tiger. On social media, you can find them at Autistic Tiger and at Tiger Vilec, V-I-L-E-C, Tiger V-I-L-E-C, on all social media platforms. So here we are creating a future celebrity here for his talent at Osceola Schools. I'd also like to give a big shout out to the St. Cloud journalism students. This is an amazing group of kids. Obviously, journalism has been taking a beating over the past decade, but these kids really get it. And it is a group of really hardworking kids who have actually had an impact at their own school, getting the district to reverse course on some issues. So it reminds me back in the day when I was a student journalist, doing the same thing, and you're all idealistic. And these are some really smart kids that are really going places. So they came, they introduced me to their program. They gave me a gigantic packet of information and ideals, and this was an amazing group of kids. So I can't wait to go, and I think I'm gonna start visiting all the journalism programs that we have and spending time there, having been a journalist myself. And these kids in Osceola, there's a ton of opportunity for journalists, isn't there? The other thing, I'd like to congratulate the FFA students across our county. They also did excellent. So I'm looking at Miss Street here. I got to find out the details, but they did a fantastic job. And I'd like to congratulate the Celebration boys soccer team. Two of my nephews play on that team. They played their hearts out, and I'm extremely, boys, if you're watching, I love you with all my heart. You are two amazing young men. That whole team is filled with amazing young men. My son graduated under COVID and played on that same team. It means a lot to my family, and they really played well. They lost this past last week, but congratulations for getting into the playoffs and making it very deep. And they were undefeated all season. So, and congratulations to all of our sports teams who have performed and represented us extremely well. Thank you for all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put on the field for us and made us look good. I doubt that he's watching, but I wanted to thank the young man who made this poster for me. It's touching when I had to really fight to get my kid to even go to soccer practice, but for this kid to come in, obviously he made his own, and two-sided here on a cereal box. He likes Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and it says "Go John" here, and I asked him, I was like, so is that me right here? Is this little guy here? And he's like, no, that's me. I was like, oh, okay. But it was very sweet and it's touching, and I appreciate that very much. It touched my heart. It made me feel good. When you're doing the right thing, people care. And so I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you too and doing my best for you. So thank you very much.
Mr. Thacker, we're going to see how many people still they're not sure about the comments. Thank you. Mr. Bass?
Okay. Well, thank all of you for attending tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed a great Super Bowl and Valentine's Day. Best football we've had for quite a while. Valentine's Day for my green thumb always means trim your crepe myrtles. Valentine's Day. As always, I want to thank our teachers, and always our bus drivers, and staff, and parents, everybody associated with our students at Osceola School District. I have some good and maybe some not so good information to share, so I'm going to present it. I'm going to try not to take too long. Mentioning the Odyssey of the Mind, I was really impressed. I was invited to attend the award ceremony for Odyssey of the Mind. And for those of you who don't know it, it's a creative problem-solving competition amongst area schools. So it's the best and the brightest that descend upon a single school, and we were lucky enough to host this event at Osceola High School. It's on a Saturday night when the fair is going on and the rodeo going on. I didn't expect a big turnout, so when I showed up and I didn't have any parking, and that was unbelievable. The whole entire gym, both sides and the floor was covered with young bright minds. And Osceola County did take away some of the awards. That was fantastic. So I want to thank Principal Lawrence Scott and his staff for being such a great host. Last week I attended Harmony Middle School SAC meeting. One of the presenters at the SAC meeting, I was really impressed with, a young lady. She's a member of the Newly Formed Builders Club, and she was advocating for a change to school uniform policy. She wanted her peers to have different options to school spirit wear. I was so proud of her. She presented her side well, and was proud that she had the courage to step forward and advocate for that. I'm not sure we can make any change right now, but she is moving in that direction. Attend the Harmony High School booster meeting. The club is preparing for the two major fundraising events this spring, with portions of the fundraising to apply to scholarships. We have 17 scholarship applications, and the booster club, I get this, is a booster club, not school associated, will be awarding 6 $1,000 scholarships. I'm very proud of that. So I've been asked to sit on the judging committee. It was also nice, they also voted to present a booster shirt each month to the employee of the month. So I thought that was a nice gesture. Staying in Harmony, the Harmony baseball team is looking to put in a new scoreboard. They've been working hard. I reached out to Kisselback Ford, who is going to be committing $5,000 towards advertising space on that board. They're going to be collecting $5,000 from boosters and then another $5,000 from grants. So they have collected a total of $15,000 to be applied to this project. So we're still moving forward with it. It's a little bit of a long process. We have ways to go, but we'll get there. St. Cloud High School, as Tanya can tell you, the PA system in there needs a little bit of help, needs a lot of help. So I've been working with Eric Godfrey, he's the athletic director, and Mark having, maybe we can put a temporary fix on that, and our ultimate goal is to eventually purchase and install a new PA system in the gym. Maybe we can do that towards the end of the year. Last week had the opportunity to tour the maintenance department, and I want to thank Mark Cabinet for giving me the tour of the facility. It's quite a challenge providing daily maintenance to a network of schools in this district. Boys and Girls Club, I present an update each week on that. And we started out from ground zero with no money and no location. After our one breakfast last month, we have now crossed over the $400,000 threshold. And I may have some good news coming within the next couple of weeks. I'm not allowed to disclose yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And I got a great shot in the arm. As I was pulling into the parking lot, I got an email from a parent giving me kudos for finally, I've been working on trying to get a school speed zone on Arthur J. Gallagher Boulevard for Harmony High School and Harmony Middle School. Where he said it's finally up in place and operational. So finally we have a school zone there. Slow the traffic. Well, the sign will say slow the traffic down. I don't know if they might hear that. So those are all of my good things. I'm gonna have to digress because it's not comfortable for me, but I need to address an issue that's been very concerning to me and my family. And it originated in this room, and I'm not one to go online, and I'm not one to go to say negative comments online. So it happened here, I got to address it here. This is the only time that I'll be able to do this. I usually don't respond to personal slights or attacks when someone mischaracterizes my position. I usually let it go because I just don't want to bring the meeting down. I don't want to post any negative information online. I have faith in the people who know me and they can see through any lies or insults. But now I have family members, my daughter, brother, sister-in-law, the son, they're all part of the school district. Sending me screenshots of things that are being said that are completely false. And so I need to break from normal practice and address the lies that have been said about me. I realize that elected officials, we stand in the court of public opinion. And in today's world of social media being the platform for local news and neighborhood gossip, we all participate. And it becomes so easy for everybody to become judge and jury. It's unfortunate we're in a society now where you're guilty until proven innocent, just if someone says something. So at our last board meeting, Board Member Osceola had stated that I had taken campaign money from one of the vendors, specifically Mike Garner, and then also stated that Mike Garner had put me in the seat. So I want to make an admission. There were 3 people who put me in the seat. 3 people were Robert Bass, Allison Bass, and Betty Danke. Betty Danke is my dear friend. She's retired. She's my cohort, Christmas parade. I love her dearly. And she works part-time at Cunningham's Office Supply. She designed my sign. My daughter's favorite color. She said, we want this to be the color. We designed the sign, we ordered and we distributed it to our friends and family. There were 3 of us running for the seat, for school board seats. Julius, and this is nothing disrespectful, Julius, but Julius did a great job. He raised $35,000. John raised $25,000. I raised a whopping $12,000. Now, could I have raised more? Absolutely. But I made it perfectly clear to everyone who was helping me and with my campaign that I wanted to remain this to be among friends, family, and maybe some business acquaintances that I've known for a very long time. So let me state for the record, let me be crystal clear with this. Neither Mike Horner, his company, his wife, or any member of his family donated to my campaign. I never asked him for a donation. I didn't want to go down that path. He did not attend my kickoff event at Hastings Ranch. There's some of you that were at the kickoff at Hastings Ranch, and you can attest to that. He did not attend my watch party, which was held at Betty Danke's house. I have a copy of my treasurer's report from my campaign showing all of my contributions and all of my expenditures. And if anybody is free to review, and I'll be glad to give you a copy after the meeting. It doesn't take long to scroll through. So I do present Mr. Boyd as misinforming the public and misleading this board in what appeared to be an attack on me. So part 2 of this is there was a letter sent, Mr. Boyd sent to the governor. Obviously was upset. I would be upset too. He sent a letter to the governor accusing me and others of pressuring him to support Superintendent Case while we were campaigning. Now I'm going to read verbatim from his letter so there's no confusion. portion of the letter.
Is this the proper format for that?
Positive comments,
It's,
just like you have your chance to speak, board members do as well.
I'm just reading, it won't take long. This is a quote from the letter. When I was running for school board, I received the same advice from several elected officials regarding being a school board member. Keep your mouth shut, do what Dr. Pace says, and if you're good, you can pick 3 pet projects. Among elected officials who gave me this advice were Osceola County Commissioner Ricky Booth, Pace's first cousin, State Representative Fred Hawkins, and disgraced former Representative Mike Norman. School board member Robert Bass gave me the same advice and said he was going to follow it.
True.
Each of those gave me another piece of advice, quote, don't dare fire Dr. Pace.
True.
I'll read the last one. Each of those,
Mr. Bass, can I ask you to hold for a second, please? Board members, I will remind you that while we all did our board member comments, no one was interrupted, and I would ask you to please extend the same courtesy to board member Bass. Thank you.
the last,
Just acknowledging its truth.
the last sentence, each of those gave me another piece of advice, don't dare fire Dr. Pace. So let me give you a little bit of background. I was a political novice, meaning I've never run for office. I assumed Mr. Boyle was the same. I had never heard of Mr. Boyle, but I reached out to him while we were campaigning. Like I said, I never heard, maybe he was new to the area, I just didn't know. We met for coffee one day, and we formed a cordial, a friendly relationship. I liked where he stood, I liked what he stood for. From that initial meeting, we exchanged many friendly conversations. I asked how his family was doing, he would reciprocate. His father passed away, I gave my condolences. We chit-chatted back and forth, how did your interview go, it was as cordial as you would having a conversation with any of your friends or family members. So, I want to read just an excerpt of our conversation that took place less than a month from the election. It's just a text message between he and I, less than a month before election. I'm going to start off. This is me saying this. John, I really hope you can pull this off. I really would like to see our district move to that next level to an A. I remember you telling me you wanted to know how the schools are graded and what the grades are based on the simple metric. I don't have an answer to that, but it would be a good feather in our hats if we could get this district to an A under our leadership. We're so close now. John's reply, he said, yeah, me too. I'm working hard. I think mitigating the educational losses is going to be a huge challenge. People are worried about the board firing Deborah Pace, but I think that would be suicide considering the challenges that we're going through in the next few years in terms of budgeting and safety concerns. My reply, I hope you have the opportunity to get to know her better. She has devoted her entire life to this profession and works harder than anyone I know. John's reply was, I've only heard good things, so why is everyone so worried about the board getting rid of her? My reply, I have not heard that. I do remember watching an interview with your opponent, and somewhere in the interview he said he didn't think she was doing a good job, but you really have to understand the rest of the process before you start criticizing. John's reply is, I don't think that guy knows half of what he talks about, and I don't think the community wants to hear the school board member's intention is to get someone fired in District 3 or anywhere else. After that, we talked about real estate and just idle chit-chat. But as this exchange will show you, I did not pressure Mr. Clay about supporting Superintendent Pace. He's the one who brought it up. He brought up the topic and was presenting support for Dr. Pace. So in short, his statement to the governor stating that I said, don't dare fire Dr. Pace was a lie. And I can't assume that any of the other claims he makes in the letter are accurate. Just let you be the judge. Madam Chair, that's all I have to say. I had to get that out.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. We're gonna move on to our fine arts moment with Mr. Burns. I know that you have some little ones here. Lots of little ones. Oh, man. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I will never say that again. Not little ones.
Might be the top hat.
Yes, thank you all for allowing us to present today. So I have a special guest with me. This is Valerie Perlaza. She is a 5th grader at Eastlake Elementary School. And I have to give a shout out to her mom, Danya, who is one of our assistant principals at Denjon Middle School, who is an advocate for kindness and always is doing things to promote kindness on their campus. So I'll let Valerie read our proclamation.
Whereas any day, week, or month is a good time to remind all of us of the need to remember that kindness is an essential ingredient in the creation and maintenance of a civilized society. And whereas in the heart of all of us lies the idea that we hold the power of kindness within us. And whereas by knowing, understanding, and actually using this power, we have the ability to send out a positive ripple that may travel for miles. And whereas through random acts of kindness, we can promote healthy behaviors and positive attitudes within our schools. And whereas we seek to cultivate caring, kindness, and compassion within our schools and community through our students and staff members by teaching them to make a difference through random acts of kindness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Osceola County, Florida proclaims the month of February 2022 as Kindness Month.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Will passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie has something to share.
Oh,
Wait, you want to share?
They're going to give you these stickers to pledge for you to be kind.
And just so you all know, this Thursday is Random Act of Kindness Day, which is a national holiday. So please spread kindness, especially on Thursday.
Thank you. Fantastic. Next, we have the National FFA Week proclamation. Mr. Arnott?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board, and staff, and Dr. Pace's fill-in today, Mr. Flowers. So, no, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to do these next three, because it is CTE month, and got a lot of exciting things going on in CTE, from apprenticeship programs, really starting to look at building our career academies, and last year we had 2,500 industry credentials, which was clear enough a high in the middle of a COVID year, and we're going to shatter that record this year. So for our high schools, and we're even bringing adult certifications and CTE into our adult ed programs at ALCO. So we're doing everything we can. But today, at this moment, we want to recognize the Future Farmers of America, since we are in the middle of the fair. But anyway, the Future Farmers of America is a national youth organization with the focus on leadership, personal growth, and career success. Annually, FFA designates 1 week in February as National FFA Week. FFA chapters build interpersonal skills, communication, collaboration, and awareness of the importance of global agriculture. Currently, the district offers agri-science at the middle and high school levels. Harmony High School has an active chapter that participates in community events and competitions, raises livestock, and promotes careers in agriculture. Harmony Middle School and Horizon Middle School and Horizon High School both have chapters of Harmony Middle School and Horizon Middle School. Both have chapters with students involved in competitions with hand-on projects. Congratulations to all the programs, and thank you to our teachers and for their hard work and the dedication for student success. The FFA proclamation will be read by Ansley Bowe, Harmony High School's FFA president. Also in attendance is Alexa Hazelton, vice president and Piper Park's secretary. Advisor of Harmony High School chapter is Miss Ashton Street. Come on down, ladies.
Good evening. I'm Piper Parks. I'm your chapter secretary, and this is Alexa Hasleton stepping in for Ansley Bow today. She's Miss Silver Spurs and showing at the fair this week, so she's very busy. We are delivering the FFA proclamation. We are very excited for National FFA Week as we have many activities planned for all the students to engage in to help represent agriculture.
Whereas FFA and agriculture education provide a strong foundation for the youth of America and the future of food, fiber, and natural resource systems. And whereas FFA promotes premier leadership, personal growth, and career success among its members. And whereas agriculture education and FFA ensures a steady supply of young professionals to meet the growing needs in the science, business, and technology of agriculture. And whereas the FFA motto, learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve, gives the direction and purpose to those students who take an active role in succeeding in agriculture education. And whereas FFA promotes citizenship, volunteerism, patriotism, and cooperation, therefore, I do hereby designate the week of February 19th through the 26th, 2022 National FFA Week.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Arguello and comment. A second by Mr. Thacker with a comment.
Yeah, just have a quick comment. In light of the fair and the rodeo that are going on this week, there are hundreds of your compadres next door that are showing rabbits, chickens, steers, hogs last weekend, I think, lambs, citrus trees, that are all for sale. So anybody who would like to go by there and help these kids, there are auctions for those. You can add on to an individual person. You can buy one yourself. You can buy one with 3 or 4 people. But what you're going to find there are hundreds of kids who are not problems. You're going to find hundreds of kids who have their head on their shoulders, who are doing well at what they do in school. They're doing well with what they're doing outside of school. And it'll make you very proud of what you see in this community. So congratulations. Thank you all very much.
Not only did they do everything associated with agriculture, they had the parliamentary procedure teams. Were you participating in that now? You have teams that are.
We have a freshman team that does it.
I have a
Yes.
freshman officer team that's doing conduct of a chapter meeting. Our competition, their preliminary competition's coming up in April. And so they act as my more senior officers and do the opening and closing ceremonies, but they also do a small parliamentary procedure section in the middle.
That's great, yeah, because I was on the team, didn't even know what parliamentary procedure was in 9th grade, but we stick with it, we get to compete in all the area schools, it's really great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
So, board, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Man of the hour.
Yes, with Osceola Technical College coming up, we're excited. We're actually expanding some programs there as well. And thanks for all your shout outs and visits to the college. And we definitely highly encourage you to come out. I'll take you on a personal tour of any of our high school programs, ALCO or OTEC. Please come on by and check them out. But one thing we have going on at OTEC this week is the Registered Phlebotomy Technicians of America Medical Technologists will be observing Phlebotomist Recognition Week, February 14th through 18th, 2022. Since 1992, RPTs and others in the healthcare community have honored the vital role and the professional excellence that phlebotomists provide in the delivery of healthcare to patients. The 2022 theme, Phlebotomists Drawn to Help Others, emphasizes the commitment as a vital member of the healthcare team. The proclamation will be read by 2 of our students at OTEC, adult students. Will be read by Alexa Correa and Taylor Smith, adult students in Miss Carrie Bell's medical assisting program at OTEC. Come on down, ladies.
whereas the health of all Americans depends upon educated minds and trained hands. And whereas the practice of modern medicine at the exacting standards we now enjoy would be impossible without the clinical and administrative duties performed daily in the physician's office, clinic, laboratory, or hospital.
And whereas these multi-skilled professionals help create a professional and comforting atmosphere for patients by offering them guidance and support. And whereas through this dedication, phlebotomists of the United States have made a vital contribution to the quality of healthcare. Now therefore, the School District of Osceola County proclaims February 14th through 18th, 2022 as National Phlebotomist Recognition Week.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Arguello and a second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Here's another great story. We're gonna close out CTE month with these three young ladies. I went and visited Osceola High the other day to recognize they went to a competition in Orlando for hospitality and tourism at the Rosen Hotel and whipped Orange County 3 out of 4 events, I believe, which was great. So we were real excited about that. And they'll be going to the state championship on March 3rd and 2nd and 3rd, and I will be there in attendance at Rosen. I definitely to cheer them on. But anyway, Career and Technical Education Month, or CTE Month, is a public awareness campaign that takes place each February to celebrate the value of career and technical education and the achievements and accomplishments of CTE programs across the nation. To honor CTE programs, the National Association of Career and Technical Education issued a proclamation observing 2022 as Career and Technical Education Month. The proclamation will be read by students from Valerie Woodring's Hospitality and Tourism Management Program at Osceola High School. Great program. These three students come on down at Osceola High. Melanie Beasold, Italia Casanova, and Joselie Rivera. I had to practice that a few times, but come on down, ladies.
Thank you, Lord. My name is Italia Casanova.
My name is Joselie Rivera. And my name is Melanie Beasold. Whereas the month of February 2022 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association of Career and Technical Education. And whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for career readiness. And whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that have improved the quality of their education and increased their engagement and achievement. And
Whereas career and technical education provides students with career explorations opportunity earlier in their education experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide reports increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and information technology. And
whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring America is a strong and competitive economy. And now, therefore, the School District of Osceola County proclaims February 2022 as Career and Technical Education Month.
I have a motion by Mr. Sasa and a second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're passes 5-0. Congratulations.
thank you.
All right, team, so let's go ahead and move forward with the rest of the agenda. Let's, does anybody have any agenda modifications? Mr. Bass?
That's SAC funding.
Are we adding?
I just like to, I don't know how to.
Can we add that to your board member comments? Yeah. taken?
Might take something like
Action?
If it requires action, it gets put on new business and then on
New
back.
business? Okay. No, we. Okay, so under new business for next meeting, you're gonna add staff reimbursements. Thank you. Mr. Thacker? Yep. Mr. Lobbyist?
Yes, on the consent agenda, item 1103, on a full 1103 and 1104. Other informational items. Do I pull informational items now or?
No, but you may ask questions when we get to the point, if that's what you do.
Yeah, okay, then for new business, I was actually listening to Mr. Bass, and I like the idea of talking about the PA system for St. Cloud, and like if it has to be allocated earlier, or if it's booster funding, just the discussion about see what moving that forward. So I'd like to honor him and do that, put down new business. Also wanna acknowledge Mr. Allen as union president. The reality is, he's always speaking I'll talk about it later, but just put on new business about making him a part of the regular agenda. We'll discuss that in new business. I didn't wanna take a long time presenting, I'll present it when it comes up. Just discussion about the union, Mr. Allen, or not Mr. Allen, the union president having a regular part of the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Arguello?
Yes, I would like to pull 15.01 until the next meeting. There are some thoughts I have regarding the rules and the language, but I haven't been able to hammer it down exactly, so I have concerns. So before we move forward with that, I'd like to pull it, put on the next agenda. And then I'd like to add on new business, investigations, I guess we can put it.
Okay, thank you. I will add investigations to new business. Board, are we wanting to, 90 consensus to pull 15.01? Are you guys ready to vote on that, or do you wanna pull it? Pull it? Okay, well, we'll pull it, no problem, thank you. Okay, team, I never have any, modifications, but I do this time under, consent agenda. So, as chair, I find an emergency due to the impact, and if you have noticed, taken a look at our, social media, we are desperately, this is the item. I'm gonna ask you to add something, I really need to make sure that I add it correctly. We are clearly having some issues attracting and retaining quality employees. We're asking for people to come work for us almost every week. So as a result, I'm asking that we move into the consent agenda under human resources. One, a motion to authorize staff to increase the minimum wage that we pay to $15 an hour, effective July 1st, 2022. And for all teachers, classified and administrative employees, a one-time supplement of $500, excluding non-permanent substitute teachers. I would like to add that to this agenda under human resources. Does anybody have an issue with that? Yes? To consent? Regular? Can I add it to regular under human resources? Mr. Koppenbacher?
Yes.
Regular agenda under human resources. 1 second.
So
Yes.
I'm not opposed to that, as we've discussed, but I do, because you guys have a rule where you put something on the agenda, you can't vote on it. You guys are very selective in when you guys do that. So if we're gonna do that, which I have no problem with, especially for this purpose, which we've already discussed, then I would say that should be the practice going forward, or we follow the rules that we set and we do it the way that we're supposed to.
I understand your point, Mr. Arguello, point taken. At this moment though, I did ask to put it on the agenda based on the fact that we are having a lot of trouble finding people to fill positions, so I do consider this to be an emergency for the
I
district.
thought that we did it because we agreed to do that already.
The reason the difference is that the chair declared an emergency.
Okay, yeah,
Let's do it.
Yeah, I was about to declare that. There's a difference in emergency declaration.
Is this what you're?
No, I agree. No, that's what I was talking about. I just wanna make sure there was emergency
Okay.
declaration, so that's already established.
So we're gonna move it under regular business. that be now item 15? Let's make sure.
It don't have to be added afterwards, but if you're gonna put it under HR, regular agenda, then that's all I need to know.
Okay, so I'm gonna add it after the regular finance. That's okay with everyone. That's what we'll vote on it. Okay, so it seems like we do not have anything pulled out of the consent agenda. We added one item to the regular agenda, and then everything else was added to board member comments. Did I miss anything? Okay, Mr. Thacker moved second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. All right, so that brings us down to informational items. And we don't have anybody speaking on 11.01, 11.02.
I do have comments on that.
You have comments? Sure, you have a comment on 11.01? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so this 11.01 was an issue that was came before the board, the Education Foundation. A lot of parents had a lot of concerns about this PM well situation. I know that this audit doesn't address those things. However, I think that this would have been a good opportunity if we can maybe even put in the agenda for the next week, an opportunity for the parents to come and address their concerns which they had regarding the switching of that contract. I think that the parents would appreciate that opportunity to speak.
Can we invite parents to speak during public comment?
I mean, if we could put it on the agenda, then
But
at
they
the
can
next,
always come for a public comment.
right. If we can add it to the agenda, then parents will know they'll come for that purpose. They couldn't because they didn't realize before that they had the opportunity to come and speak to us about it. They went to the board that they answered to, which is the Education Foundation Board. But if we put it on the agenda so that they have the opportunity to come and speak, then they will. And I imagine 2 or 3 dozen parents will come and let us know how they felt about that transition.
I'm unclear on how to put an informational item back on. Are we voting on this next?
There's no action
There's
No
no action
action,
that we need to
right.
take, so how would we add it to the next agenda under information? Would we add it back to information?
You could put on the public comment, Ian Wells, parent input, and then they would know that there's not where they're gonna be speaking.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Was that all, Mr. Arguello?
For 11.01, yes.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on 11.02? Perfect. 11.03, Mr. Melendez?
Yes, Madam Chair. 11.3, I want to be able to acknowledge the fact that the school district implemented a curriculum advisory committee and it's actually being used. Because this is the adoption of math textbooks, and as I understand it, Dr. Pace has a process in place where her staff looks at the state-approved books for the, that we're allowed to choose from, because you just can't randomly choose books. Then from that, it gets filtered down, and I believe there's an internal committee that kind of decides which are the ones that we want to use at the school district. And so from what I'm understanding is that we got together at the curriculum advisory committee, and they had an opportunity to look at the math books themselves and give it the A-OK that that's what we want. So I just want people to know that, you know, when we create these advisory committees, that they are being incorporated into our decision makings, that they're not just window dressing, that they are in fact, you know, participating in the process. And so I just want to acknowledge Dr. Bush, she's not here. Well, Scott Flowers, well, thank you again for staff for really taking that advisory role seriously and allowing the parents to voice their concerns and input the textbooks. That's all I have for 11.3.
I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions or comments on 11.04? Oh, so sorry. I apologize. That's gonna be done by Andrea Jurgens. I apologize.
That's okay. Good evening. Well, I am really excited to present our recommendation for the high quality instructional materials for math. Let me take this off so my glasses don't fog up. And I wanted to build just a little bit of foundation on how we instruct and how we learn math in our district. If you would be so kind to follow along, I want to highlight first that we do have a goal in our strategic plan, Goal 1E, that states ensure every student receives high quality standards-based mathematics curriculum and instruction that is consistent across grade levels and courses throughout the district. And with that goal, we then built a math vision. to help guide our instruction and how we expect students to learn math education. And, oh, thank you, I forgot I have this. Sorry guys, here we go. Okay, so we do have our math vision, which states that we believe all students should have opportunities to make sense of mathematics while engaging in high quality, coherent, standards-based curriculum. And we've created a logo where we state we're all in, where it's inquire, inform, and inspire. And what that actually would look like, what we would like to see in classrooms, and we would like to see teacher moves and student moves. In the classroom with inquire is to discover, to investigate, to question, and then that will help students make informed decisions related to the math that they're learning, and then be inspired to make those connections in their world and in their future. And with the new best standards, we have mathematical thinking and reasoning standards. And I'm just gonna draw your attention to number 2 and number 4. There are 7 of them, and they are consistent across our K-12 grade levels and courses. But in number 2, it's demonstrate understanding by representing problems in multiple ways. And number 4 is engage in discussions that reflect on the mathematical thinking of self and others, which these 7 mathematical thinking and reasoning standards truly align to what our vision is and what we would like to see with students inquiring, being informed, and being inspired. Our committee and teacher body when they were reviewing the materials, they had criteria set, and I've highlighted a few of them on the screen. Of course, they need to be aligned to the new standards, the best standards. Coherent sequencing of mathematical ideas. It needs to be engaging for all students in the tasks that promote the problem solving. Engages all students in meaningful mathematical discussion, and builds fluency with procedures on a foundation of conceptual understanding. When we're making our recommendation, it's Reveal Math by McGraw-Hill, the publisher McGraw-Hill. Some of the highlights of the components that I'd like to highlight that align to the mathematical thinking and reasoning standards and our criteria that we've highlighted is that there's a print and digital experience, which is important because then all students have access. There's STEM connections, there's differentiation resources, personalized adaptive instruction, which is included for all of our students. It includes mathematical language routines, which is important with our math discourse. There's SAT and ACT preparation resources, and there's collaborative prompts for the students and the teachers. So in the student edition, there's prompts as well as in the teacher. The lesson structure for our recommended materials is consistent through all grade levels, K through our high school suite, and it includes a launch, an explore and develop, reflect and practice, and a differentiate, which aligns again to our mathematical thinking and reasoning standards and how we want students to inquire, be informed, and be inspired. And on the screen in front of you is the chart of all of our recommended materials, which is K-12. You'll see that Reveal Math is K through our high school suite, and then our upper maths have individual publishers, and you can find this on our website under instructional materials on the homepage, and there's online access to view them, and there's also print access next door at our MITD building in the lobby. And that's all.
When we had a strategic planning meeting, I can't remember how long ago, but we were talking about how, math, we're trying to look at different ways to kind of engage students. And one of them was having like real life examples, not just, hey, y equals mx plus b, and that's like too theoretical. There was one math book, but I don't think it was approved by the state, so we don't know if we can use it, but had a lot more realistic, real life world examples saying, hey, if you're an engineer, or if you're growing a garden, at the rate of speed that the garden grows, kind of giving people application. To what degree was that utilized in the process of filtering the books? Or do the publishers just give us what we got and we have no choice in that?
When we review the materials, we do keep that in mind. That was one of our criteria, to have connections to the real world, and it's in our benchmarks. So the materials that we're recommending are aligned to those benchmarks and have those connections. And then when we develop the curriculum pacing and the units, then we will point out, make sure that you hit this example or make sure that you're connecting it to this section so that we can highlight it. That's all. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, 11.04, Frank wanted to speak on that?
Is that the prayer resolution? Is that the prayer resolution?
No.
It's a curriculum advisory.
Yeah, they're just like CRPs.
Yeah, members of the board, this is the resolution that the board would pass confirming and implementing with guidance and direction compliance with the applicable state statute 1003.422 and 6A 1.094124, which includes, among other things, restrictions on teaching critical race theory, which the district is not doing. It would also assure that all new employees were advised these rules prior to beginning employment. It would also assure that all current teachers are advised that under the statute, no one can give their political opinions. And I'm not one that believes all teachers have been told that over time. It's in rules, there's lots of training, but I've been around long enough that people get books like this on policies and they don't turn them page by page, right? The other thing it would do is have a process that any suspected violation gets reported to us and investigated, and the findings are then reviewed and given to the board. And that is a summary of what is required in this. It implements the applicable Florida statute and rule. We also have in it a requirement that every contract with a vendor require they comply. We always said they have to comply with all Florida law, but we're including now specific language that they have to comply with that particular statute and bringing it to their attention. I don't expect them to read every Florida statute, but if you're a construction vendor, you may never realize that that statute's in effect and you're not to be out there talking about that on a campus, etc. Now, some would argue, so you know, that the statute doesn't apply to anybody other than teaching students. If it's gonna apply to students, it ought to apply to everybody, right?
I have Mr. Thacker has a question, and then Mr. Arguello.
Today it's under the information item, so we are not voting on this today, correct? This is a question for putting it on the future agenda.
Oh, yeah. That's information.
This is not,
It's
we're
not
not
an
taking
action item.
action, just correct?
That's correct, they put it on the agenda stage, so we gave you the background to think about, if you have questions. And then, Madam Chair, this is the board, we need direction, is it to be put on the agenda for a vote at the next meeting or not?
I still have a lot of questions about this. I'm not sure, I'm sure I don't know if you all have sat with Mr. Krautenbacher to talk about this, but I don't think I've had an opportunity to thoroughly think about this. There's a lot still going on in the legislature, and I don't fully know whether or not this is necessary, since we will have legislature that already tells us exactly this. So for me, it's a matter of understanding why we need to have an additional resolution that states exactly what our legislature is saying. I'm not debating this, by the way, so this is an informational item. But I definitely need to talk to Mr. Krautenbacher with regards to the needs specifically for this, based on the fact that we probably will have several legislative items that are coming from the this session that address this. And it could just be my ignorance, but I fail to understand why we need an additional resolution for it. Mr. Melendez? No, I apologize. Mr. Arguello was next.
Yeah, we've kind of heard that as a reoccurring theme on why we don't do things. But there's a lot of things that we do in redundancy that maybe have no good reason or do have a good reason. But complying with the law is a pretty good reason to have a redundancy, right? So if the Florida statute says X, to say at this time, we affirm the Florida statute and we will comply, it's not the worst idea. We've had far worse ideas. So it may be just, I would say that's not a great philosophy or a lens through which to view this resolution. It's not my resolution. I didn't write the resolution. I just think that complying with the law is something that maybe we have not done in the past, so maybe we reaffirm what we're supposed to do. And we don't know what the law is, so, I mean, we just did, how many resolutions did we just do, right? We did one for phlebotomy week, and we did one for bus driver safety, and we did one, I mean, it doesn't require a resolution, it just, sometimes you wanna make sure you're doing the right thing.
Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, I originally brought this up for discussion, and this was the piece that Mr. Koppenbacher just answered, because I thought it was important that our vendors may not be held to the same standard as our district personnel. And I wanted to make sure there was a bullet point language inserted into every contract that we do to ensure that it's not filtering its way down. So that was answered, and so I think I'm satisfied with that answer. I can see both issues. You know, I can agree with Mr. Arguello saying that the resolution reaffirming it is important, but I can also see Chairman Castillo's point that the legislature is gonna create new laws. So the resolution may be referencing the wrong statute and the wrong rule. So I think that it's just a little bit premature, that I think it's well versed to sit there and wait for the legislature to create the new laws that might have its own standards and then create a resolution to that standard, rather than creating a resolution and having to modify it later because the legislature created some new items. So I do agree with the fact that we do need a resolution reaffirming it, but at the same time, we need to see what it is that we're affirming to, because the legislature is gonna have its own idea of what critical race theory is as a definition.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. So it looks like, yeah, regular business.
Move to approve item 12.01.
Second with discussion.
I have a motion from Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Melendez. With discussion, I do have a point of order. We do have someone who was speaking on Miss Emily. Where is she? Did you add this before or after we made the motion?
Mine was about ESP targeting. Is that what this is?
Well, no, so I'll let you do it after for public comment. Okay, I have nothing to do with this. Okay, discussion?
Okay. Now, on this one, I was looking at the contract price, because the dollar amount was like $124,000. And then the contract itself, when I spoke with Ms. Sarah Graver, all the individual scopes of the audit add up to 124. But my issue was that's just an amendment to what we're doing already this year. So then I asked her, what is the annual allocation for audits for the year? And I believe she said, as a rule of thumb, we were around, correct me if I'm wrong, was it around $100,000 a year?
We've done 100,000 for the last 2 years.
Yeah, so we've averaged about 100,000 for the last 2 years. This amendment alone is 124,000. The point where I'm getting to that is that if we do any more audits, you know, we're way exceeding the allocated budget that was there. And so I'm not opposed to audits, but at some point we have to, exercise some fiscal restraint. And so in other words, we have to kind of like we don't have to, I mean, this board, you guys decide what you want to do. If you want to keep spending, every dollar on audits, we can. But my humble opinion is that we kind of prioritize it and say, okay, what are the audit areas that we want to look at for the remainder of the year? And so if there is another area that we want to engage in, that can possibly wait to the next fiscal year to roll over, because we're like in dangerous territory of super exceeding the line item for that budget.
Does this include the human resources audit?
So far this year, we've already allocated 75,000 for the human resources audit that's underway. And then this would be adding an audit for IT and another one for purchasing, which are the next 2 areas in this year's audit plan.
On top of the 124. Because the 124 is just what's on the agenda here.
The 124 is for the IT and purchasing, which are on the agenda tonight.
Right, and then plus if you add 75,000 for the HR, plus the regular compliance we do, we're almost close to, past 200,000 this year alone.
Correct.
I think there were some concerns around the IT area, which we don't want to get into here though.
Right. No, these are needed, and I get it, but I'm just, and I'm okay with supporting that because the audit committee kind of already discussed it, and I don't want to usurp the audit committee. I just want to tell the audit committee, hey, we can audit everything, but there's a price tag to everything that you audit, you know what I mean? And we're just not being out of money, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, at some point, we have to prioritize and say, okay, everything does need to get looked at. I don't wanna give anyone in the public the wrong impression, but we just only have so much funds. We need to prioritize and say which ones are the engagements that we wanna go to, and let's wait to the next fiscal year to roll on the next ones and not just keep, you know, spending. We don't have an unlimited pot, so to speak.
Have we already started work on the human resources audit? Okay, Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we can hold this off until the next fiscal year. I think one of these audits, I'm in very much supportive, but maybe we pick and choose instead of going all forward with everything. But I do agree. I mean, I think that this can wait because a lot of things change. A lot of things will be changing in the near future, and then priorities may change.
Madam Chairman, could we pull this tonight?
Yes.
The reason I'm saying, I'd like to get with the auditors because the item of penetration testing.
That's already been done, hasn't it?
Well-
Or have they already started the work?
Well, I don't know, that's why I'm
Can I
saying.
address that?
Please.
So, okay, so penetration testing was done last year, the recommendation was that that's something that's important enough to do every year, the penetration testing. So it has not been done yet for this year, it's part of what's on the agenda tonight.
And I wanted to get back with them on that and come back to the board because our data systems are so critical. You know, we had districts in the state penetrated and their data was taken, and the state extortion that, I don't know what amount breaks how that through.
Just so the board knows, I'm okay with passing this. I'm just kinda giving the caution sign that, hey, we've exceeded the line item. Anything we do above and beyond this really needs to get
But
scrutinized.
I wonder, and I apologize for interrupting you, and Mr. Arguello, I know that you are next. Okay, so it's Mr. Arguello and then Mr. Thacker. I acknowledge that this is higher than normal, however, just based on some of the work that I do, I know that this is important, so maybe the question isn't so much that, the question might be that we just need to increase our budget for it, not that it, because it sounds like, just based on conversations that we've had, with RSM, these are not things that we should ignore, especially IT, especially knowing how vulnerable, government agencies are. So I think that it's maybe an expectation that needs to be reset. Instead, that's just my opinion. Again, I don't think we should pull the item tonight. I think this is all necessary, but I think that we need to reset our expectations as a board. Perhaps that's where I'm at. Mr. Thacker and then Mr. Arguello.
I would just, I'm fine either way with either voting tonight or pulling the item, and I made the motion. I'm not necessarily that good with, at this point, with moving it to the next fiscal year. But if it makes people more comfortable, I would be okay to rescind my motion and pull it till the next meeting and allow each board member to talk privately with, staff on the reasons these are in here. So they could know what those real issues are. So I'm also very good to vote on this tonight, because I think the background of these, and I think they're important. And, well, 124,000 is a lot. When it was discussed, there was room.
Mr. Arguello.
Yeah, I'm not so scared of over $124,000, which is something that we seem to spend in our sleep, but my concern really is if it's so important that we need to do it every year, then it should be a line item in the budget. And if we're not budgeting for it, then it can't be that important. Because if it's something that's really important, then you're gonna prepare for it, you already know that you have the need. So if their finding last year was that this is so important, you need to do it every year, why didn't it go into the budget? So it's not that important, obviously. I mean, obviously, our penetration testing, I was at that meeting, I'm not gonna discuss the results, but the point is that if it was urgent, then we would have put it in the budget item unless it was an oversight. So the timing of this is that if we go ahead and we approve this tonight, then when will the penetration testing take place?
So the intent behind putting these two in for the current year, if you approve them tonight, is that we would try and get both of these audits done by June 30th in this year.
So we still have time then. So we,
But like I said, I don't really have an issue with pulling it, I just wanted to
Wait, one
address.
second, Mr. Melendez, I apologize, I have Mr. Thacker who's called the question, do we have a second? Or, we're not, just, really? Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Thacker and a second by Mr. Bass, to call the question and go ahead and vote on this item, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that means that we're now going to go back and vote on item 12.01, and that we still have the motion and the second on the floor, is that correct?
I thought you rescinded his motion.
Did
No,
you
I
rescind?
said I was willing to, but
Oh.
let's just move on, I think, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so we have,
The motion was to approve, item 12.01.
and the second was made by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Co-passes 4-1.
Make a
And-
motion to approve, the additional
12.02.
item that was added under human resources.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, do I have a second? I'll second.
I'm sorry, second with discussion.
Okay, I will rescind my second.
Sorry.
Second by Mr. Melendez with discussion, so what is your point of order?
I just wanted to make it clear for the record too, that this is an emergency order because, obviously, there's the great resignation nationwide. It's not even limited to just Osceola County, but we are literally short-staffed in virtually so many departments that this has to be addressed. I mean, we're talking bus drivers, substitute teachers are literally teaching the class full-time. I mean, we are doing the best that we can to try to get folks onto the district campus. So with that, I just want to make it clear that this is something that we really have to address sooner rather than later because, we really have to get folks into the door. And so sometimes, money's the way to go. And so, if it's not the answer, we're gonna try, and we're gonna value all of our employees and let them know, especially those on the bottom, that you're not gonna be at the very bottom, that we're gonna lead the way and try to get you up to a higher minimum standard to make sure that, we value those employees.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Goya, you had a comment as well.
Yeah, so, here's the thing, I'm not for the pomp and circumstance. It's just better to be transparent and clear with everyone. This is we can go through the theatrics, but we came to this conclusion before, so let's not pretend that. Let's just say the truth. Everyone is in agreement that we deserve to pay our employees more. We're all agreeing to actually do that. We met, we agreed, we're doing it. Instead of the dog and pony show, let's just go and tell them the truth and say, hey, we met, we agreed, you're all getting raises, you're all doing better, we're doing the best I can. Thank God there's a little bit of pressure going on so that everyone feels like they need to do this. So thank you very much for the public for putting the pressure on the school board to make the right thing happen.
Do you need to address that, Mr. Kloppenbacher?
With all due respect, I think the comments of the chair and vice chair were supporting the position of why there was an emergency. Otherwise, you could not have had it on the agenda tonight had the chair not declared an emergency.
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay, so it sounds like everyone is in agreement that we're going to go ahead and pass this. So with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Now is the time when we're gonna go ahead and do public comments. I wanna make sure that everybody who wants to speak has already filled out their paperwork. I don't wanna leave anybody behind. Everyone who wants to speak, has everyone filled out their paperwork? Yes? Great. So as a reminder, team, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Please do not address any individual board members, and please do not interrupt. I'm also going to ask you to stick with your 3 minutes. I will ask you to stop your comments at the 3-minute mark to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. And with that, we are going to start a respectful comment with Emily. Does it? Okay, I'll change it to last next time.
Oh, but that's okay, because it is related. So yeah, I'm Emily Grintz. I'm our Eastside Elementary representative for OCEA, which is our staff union. And I actually wanted to start with going back to the last meeting. We mentioned the Bezos Montessori School potentially coming onto our SDOC campus. And I was curious and started looking. Montessori, for anyone who doesn't know, is a pre-K program. they're advertising starting at $52,000 a year, ranging up to $89,000 a year. SDOC puts most pre-K teachers as ESPs, which means they're not grouped with teachers. They're grouped with the group that got a 30-cent raise last year. That still make less than half of most teachers that did not get the $1,000 governor's relief check, that have not gotten any retention bonuses, have not received extra sub pay because they're not subbing, they have their own normal daily class. But they could go and make $52,000 in our own community on our own district property. And I know that's just one example in a long list of other higher paying opportunities that ESPs can pursue. We've gone through the list before: Amazon, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's. ESPs can pretty much go anywhere else and make more money. And we know that that's a national crisis. We know it's going on, but we have to meet the moment. We have to step up as leaders and meet that. And you alluded to that you're going to, but as we don't know the details of that yet, I still want to push you while there's still time, because we don't meet until Thursday to go over bargaining. How are we going to meet this moment? Are we going to join the many other local counties that have gotten their ESPs, the $1,000 government relief funds? Are we going to follow our own strategic plan and have retention bonuses for quality professionals? Are we going to do nothing and continue to turn a cold shoulder to our ESPs? We are in a crisis, and the way we respond reverberates for years throughout our workforce. If you lose people this year, you don't get them back. It affects next year and the year after. It continues to have ripple effects, and we don't want to have to lose people just because we did nothing or we did something way too late. Loyalty begets loyalty. We can't afford to pay everyone $52,000, I know that, I'm fully aware, but we can do something. And the sooner we do it, the far better it will be for us. We can't continue just to do the minimum. We have to make sure it's not just a YouTube video and a donut in May, that there's truly clear action being done, that our leaders are taking care of us. Thank you.
Next, we have Karen. Next, we have Karen Baker.
Karen Baker, 2484 Yellow Brick Road, St. Cloud. America was founded and built on faith in God. Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain and unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams, America's second president. God, who gave us life, gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. Thomas Jefferson, author of America's Declaration of Independence, America's third president. While we are zealously performing the duties of good citizens and soldiers, we certainly ought not to be inattentive to the higher duties of religion, to the distinguished character of patriot. It should be our highest glory to add the more distinguished character of Christian. General George Washington, America's first president. We have staked the whole future of American civilization not on the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future of all of our political institutions upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God. James Madison, primary author of the U.S. Constitution, America's fourth president. I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men, and if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? Benjamin Franklin, a signer of both America's Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, founder of the University of Pennsylvania, one of the leading theorists of the American Revolution. So I ask you, members of the board, superintendent, and teachers, what happened to you? What has happened to our educational system? Why has our educational system so willingly adopted the Marxism progressive ideology? Your only job is to teach our children reading, writing, and arithmetic, not indoctrinate them. They should be taught how to think for themselves and make decisions based on actual facts and truths, not to blindly follow untruths without question. It is time to go back to teaching and to keep politics out of our schools.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Luis Rivera?
I have literature to give you guys, so you can follow along.
Would you mind just giving it to Ms. Culver and she'll pass it to us? Thank you.
Go ahead and start her.
Yes.
Denzel said, to get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. I watched a few meetings recently and noticed that parents and teachers speaking publicly have expressed same concerns that I have. I wonder why you guys haven't been able to solve them. Since attending these meetings, I've always expressed communication and transparency with the school and parents is key. OHS has a lockdown and I didn't know about it even though I pass that school every day. Laced gummies in school, I know about it now because of a open public statement. SRO slams a high school student. I don't know what the end result is because I only heard about it on the news. As possible adoption across the street from my son's old school, didn't know about it until he told me. The school never did. I would love to confirm hearsays. I mean, for God's sakes, this is a pandemic and you guys are fighting about masks, quarantine, social distancing, and in January there was a new COVID rule and I didn't know about it. Sorry, I don't watch the news like everyone else. This makes no sense. So I think that first you guys really should do a survey. You guys continue making these choices, but you guys should be asking your constituents how they feel. The survey should be in detail starting from 2001, talking about gender, SROs, current events, and board meetings. Second, assign someone to cover these meetings. At the end of the day, all I see is under minutes that someone spoke either about the agenda or not. Third, some of these rules, like only 3 minutes, maybe you guys should have a town hall meeting with the board member at their respective schools. 3 minutes is too short. Move it to public comment towards the beginning, and any person who has questions or concern, one of you guys follow up. I see a lot of people speaking, and I don't know if you guys ever follow up. Fourth, transportation. If you guys don't take care of it this year, I'm sure next year is gonna be worse. I'll tell you how many times my son falls asleep after a 2-hour bus ride and I have to drive to the next bus stop to get him. Fifth, I feel that communication is number one, but respect for the teachers should be above all. Every day, I see parents in the parking lot speeding, children jumping over seats while they're driving, and teachers say nothing. I've witnessed students smoking and using vulgar language in front of teachers, and they say nothing. I would love to see my nephew and niece perform, but it's really difficult because the last time this lady's baby cried for like 2 hours and no dean, vice principal, or person hosting the event said anything. By the way, like I said, at the end of this meeting, you guys tell me all the time, Louis, the information about the board meetings are in the minutes, but all the people that speak here today, I don't know what they said, I don't know if you guys followed up with it, and I don't know if you guys were putting it on the next agenda. I ain't got time to watch 3 to 4 hours of you guys giving good presentations, giving PowerPoints, but also when you guys argue.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you.
For your comments.
I appreciate it.
Next, we have Chris Fontenot.
This is probably the first time I've got up to speak when I don't have anything prepared in front of me, so I might ramble a little. I apologize in advance. To answer the other gentleman's question who was just speaking, no, there is no follow-up generally. The other thing I was going to say is that I am so thankful that there's finally been an emergency order put in place for teachers, because I know that, without addressing anybody, one particular board member who consistently is on their own with issues has voiced this concern months ago that there's been an emergency need for higher teacher salaries and teacher retention. So I'm so thankful that that finally is getting done. The other thing I wanted to say is there's clearly some political agenda that's been going on here with some of the investigations and whatnot, and the fact that the news cameras are here strategically at certain meetings kind of helps me to understand that it's probably a little bit, I don't know, staged, planned. There's only one board member who consistently speaks on behalf of the parents, and I think that's pretty evident based on who shows up here to speak. And we're not all in that particular board member's district. So, like I said, we are looking for liberty-minded candidates to sit in some of these seats that you guys are in who are not representing the districts and your constituents. Thank you.
Mr. Allen?
Larry Allen, 722 Mabbitt. First of all, I need a few things from you all. I need you to advocate at the state level for the kids and staff that are here in Osceola County. I need you to stay focused on school board policy and state legislation that actually addresses the problems our students and staff face each day. Please don't get distracted by sensational topics. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but there is a critical shortage of people needed to take care of our kids. So let's make policy here at this level. Let's support legislation that addresses the problem. One of the bills you can look into is House Bill 1017, Senate Bill 1576. There's a lot of horrible legislation that comes out of the state, and again, I need y'all to step up. But this one seems to be pretty good. It requires a list of critical shortage areas for education staff professionals, just like the teacher critical shortage areas. And it encourages a system of career development for the ESPs. All students, especially those with learning disabilities, deserve the individual attention they need to reach their full potential. Education staff professionals are crucial in ensuring that students' needs are met. Just ask a teacher or ask a parent. Way too many dedicated, qualified educators have left the profession because they simply cannot afford to do the job they love. And this bill is a step in the right direction. ESPs love their students, but the sad reality is they can make more money working at a gas station or a big box store. So if you'd like to learn more, and I'm a union president, but I don't agree with everything they do. I don't agree with all their policies, and I probably shouldn't have said that on camera, but I did. So if you'd like to learn more, you can go to feaweb.org, and you can see the bills that are being tracked. They have, like, each week they tell you what's coming up because it changes constantly. Another thing you could check out is Educating from the Heart. It's a podcast. There are discussions from educators, parents, and students on the issues that really matter to public ed in Florida. I had a whole bunch of other things to say. I don't have time, but I wish I'd thought of this earlier. I have Valentines for you all. I had to go to like three or four different stores just to find them because they're sold out. But I had some people write, if I asked them, hey, what would you write to your school board member that they could do so they could become your favorite Valentine? So I've got a couple of those for you, and I've got candy. Oh, it's right here. I just want to nip this in the bud. It says Airheads. That was not on purpose. That is all I could find, literally.
And Larry, what was that Senate bill number? Senate bill number? House bill 1017.
House Bill 1017 and Senate Bill 1576, but there's always stuff coming out. It is crazy up there. I was there last week too. It's something, if you get a chance, please go see it and see how the process works. And try not to get your heart broken, because a lot of times there are 80 people in the room saying, vote this, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
you're right.
I'm trying to be fair.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Thank you. We'll chat later.
Okey doke.
Mr. Bussier? I hope I said that correctly. I'm not doing well today.
You did. Robert Bussier, 3551 Maple Ridge Loop, Kissimmee, Florida, 34741. Hey, everyone. I am here to name names. Okay, you mentioned Odyssey tonight, all right? And I want to recognize Dean at Kissimmee Middle School, Carmen Yeves, who this is her third year coaching Odyssey of the Mind, does a terrific job with these kids and has put in a lot of her own time and effort, and I want to recognize her. And more importantly, I'd like you guys to recognize her. I'd also like to name Erica Walters, AP over at Osceola High School. Had a terrific meeting with her today regarding my own son, who is in an ASD unit there, regarding his transition, and I really appreciated her open attitude and just willingness to listen and be there for us. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Koppenbacher, you're up next with comments.
Yes, members of the board. First item, in order for a suit to be filed on behalf of the board, I need the board's authority. We have a individual, member of the public, a woman who is posting, alleging that our various people in this organization are engaging in child trafficking. There is absolutely no truth. It's outright unbelievable libel and slander. There's more to this individual. She identified she had a lawyer. We've called this lawyer, never a return call. I would like authority to file suit on behalf of the board and the employees involved, seeking to have a judge hopefully enter an injunction ordering it to be taken down, because it is quite damaging, I think, both to this institution, and it's unfair. We have a person in the communications department, a male employee, suddenly shows up, he's trafficking in kids. It's alleged about different people at the district, and I just come from a background that it's incumbent to protect your employees, and it's unheard of. So they're sitting there and taking the shots, and if the board gives me a nod, then I'm gonna prepare the appropriate suit and go to court and say, Judge, you know, these people, one, are being liable, they have a damage claim, the district's being liable because it's impacting our reputation, and it should be removed.
Mr. Argoya, you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, so I mean, if someone is making these accusations, right? I mean, so was there a investigation of some sort?
I just got this. I know two of the people it's been alleged against. There's nothing there. Check with law enforcement, there's nothing there. So the reality is, when somebody says,
I mean, shouldn't this be referred to law enforcement?
yes, but at the same time, I think law enforcement doesn't have the authority to take it down. To get it taken down, I want to go to court and ask for an emergency hearing and get this stopped because of the pain our employees are suffering. We're also referring it, and we've written and contacted Facebook asking that it be taken down. To date, it hasn't. So I'm just trying to do everything. And it's not gonna cost any more to do it because I'm on retainer to do it. I just want people to know you cannot say this stuff about individuals with reckless abandon.
I mean, that seems to happen here, but my thing that's important to me is that if somebody's making an accusation of that nature, then shouldn't it just go to law enforcement first? I mean, that should be like the number one thing.
I would tell you this, with all due respect for law enforcement. I dealt with every one of the branches multiple times. They're dealing with murders, they're dealing with rapists, they're dealing with violent crimes, and these things don't move fast. because it's more civil in nature to them.
Mr.
The
Croftwalker.
problem is that we ask for an investigation. If a butterfly lands on a car, we've hired an attorney to come and
You're
investigate,
mixing, now,
right?
Mr. Garbrell, you're mixing things up. This is an issue of our employees being attacked, all right? And my saying, can I have your authority to ask the court to stop it? We're gonna give it to law enforcement too. They'll do their criminal thing. But in the meantime, I think it's incumbent not to have the employees getting hung out.
Can I ask you, Mr. Croftwalker, to clarify crystal clear how these allegations are being made? Because if we don't, it sounds like an allegation was made to the school district and we're ignoring it, and I don't think that's what's happening.
What has been put on Facebook are comments that certain people in an organization, I'm not gonna say their name publicly, are engaging in human trafficking. Right, and,
So essentially, this is an allegation on social media. It's
Yes,
not something
ma'am.
that's come to us specifically,
No,
but it is damaging.
no, the first thing I did though, when I saw it on social media was literally look into and contact, was there anything going on with law enforcement? And did we have any issue? And I was told no.
That's okay, yeah.
Mr. Thacker?
First off, if somebody believes this is going on, their recourse should be law enforcement and not social media. Social media, as we all know, there's lots of things that are very true and there's lots of things not so true. And there's a lot of hurtful things out there, and I want to protect our staff from hurtful allegations that there's no factual base in. And I am, as far as I'm concerned, I'll give you a head nod to pursue this.
Yeah, I don't know if we have consensus, but I know I'm doing what you need to do. Yeah, okay. What else?
Thank you. Let me go back to the sheet. The next item is, at the last meeting, I was asked to look at the question of prayer when you are considering that resolution between now and the next meeting.
It's on the agenda today.
We pulled it.
We pulled it, sorry, there's a lot going on, you guys.
You do have the authority, and I've made the change to limit the persons who can do the invocation to residents of Osceola County. And the reason you would want to do that is when you say we are going to invite all congregations in Osceola County, that's what we want you to do, but we don't. The board has expressed, if they pass this, they don't want somebody who's from Orange County who comes to a church in Osceola County giving the invocation. And we believe we can legally defend that. They want it to be residents. The expression to me was, we'd like to limit it to people who reside within our county.
Frank, you clarified that the last thing you said, it could not be a board member, could not be.
Well, absolutely cannot be a board member, nor would I invite any employee to do it. It should really be the the public. If we actually talked about among the lawyers, you can invite seniors. I'd start with us getting locked down with inviting everybody, getting it working before we started tweaking it. The next one is, members of the board, I have been repeatedly called about, from staff, about postings on Facebook, let's say by the board, as to whether or not those postings violate the board rules and policies. Because the assertion was they do. I have not looked at them deliberately, all right, because I've been around long enough, it is clear that they want me to give direction if I think it's a violation to remove it. The board can authorize me or the superintendent to have that authority. I would say whoever's authorized should first get with the board member and talk about whether or not the board member agrees when they understand rules in that, and if they agree to remove it, it's kept on record, but it's off the school district Facebook. If they don't, we ultimately could have me go, no, it's out. I don't prefer to be in that role, quite candidly. We could then bring it back to the board itself and have the matter decided by the board, but I don't need any more calls on the issue, and I'm not going to make the decision unless the board says, no, you as the lawyer will look at it and decide.
What does the rule say about what we're allowed to post or not post? That's, I mean, that's why we have you.
Right. Well, let's put it on the next agenda and we'll put up the rule. But the rule talks about you can't use it for political purposes. And candidly, some stuff I can look at and go, that's absolutely political. Other stuff, it's in the eyes of the beholder. And you gotta talk to the person who posted it. So-
I would say that we should have a discussion about it, but I would also ask you to put yourself, if this was a teacher doing it,
Right.
how would you ask us to proceed? Not today.
No, I'm gonna tell you right
Think
now.
about it.
It would be the superintendent's responsibility to deal with the teacher. All right?
I'm pretty confident that we have had teachers' behavior
Right.
called up.
Yeah.
And what is and what isn't allowed, and I do think that we should all be held to the same standard, that's my personal opinion.
Well, in the
So-
meantime, I'm gonna advise the board, when I'm told about this, I'm gonna get with each board member, whoever it's raised about, and go through with whatever I'm told. And I'm gonna rely on the board member to make their judgment, and until the board gives direction otherwise. I am not going to serve in a role of the arbiter of this is this or this is that. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I don't think it's my role to do that until the board clarifies that is your role and you interpret it. And I'm not asking you to do that, right? Or the board says, no, we'll decide it at each meeting. But I'm telling you, it's an issue.
I think
for
the
staff.
challenge that I have right now is that every board meeting, we're sucking up 35 minutes of time that we should be discussing students on things that have nothing to do with students because of noise that's happening outside. And I need to end that. I think that it's irresponsible of us to continue having these conversations. So maybe the consideration board is, do we need social media? Maybe that's the consideration, because I don't wanna spend any more time going through people's behaviors because it is noise, and we have a lot of work to do that we consistently don't do because we are addressing outside things. Personally, that's where I'm at. So if you wanna bring it to the next board meeting, one second, Mr. Aguayo, I see your light, I understand, you will have your moment to speak. We have a lot of work to do, and we're not doing it, because we're spending probably 70% of our meetings discussing things that are outside of what our job is. And we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing as board members. We need to end this. So, in my opinion, bring up the rule and we're objective about it. If this was any other person, would we allow this to continue? We have very clear statements as board members that are not even mandated locally, but by the state. We are nonpartisan. Anytime that anyone has even tried to make any kind of motion that is even close to partisan, it's been shut down, except under certain circumstances. I don't use, certain people use their social media pages how they want, but if it is causing this much of an issue and this much time from business, this is a business meeting, and we know that, that's why there's an agenda of things that we're supposed to be doing. 70% of the time we're spending talking about outside behavior. And I'm sick of it.
I want to follow up on that if there's
Yeah, so I think that you just spent more time talking about social media than we ever have here at the school board on the dais. But number one, we are not teachers, okay? We are elected officials, so we work for a specific group of people, which is the citizens. We don't work for the superintendent works for us. And you may be the chairwoman, but I don't work for you, and Mr. Bass does not work for you, and apparently everyone feels like you guys work for somebody else, but it's neither here nor there. The fact is, we are elected people, and we have a responsibility. So what you're saying is, because you don't like something that might be said on social media, what we're gonna do is prevent them from using social media, from communicating with the people who vote for them, because you don't wanna do business, at any point in time, listen, I block off the whole night. I'll be here until 12 at midnight if you wanna continue working. If there's something that you think that we're not accomplishing, bring it up.
John, that's not.
Hold on, hold on. So, I think that if there's grandstanding that I've ever seen, that's actually it, because it doesn't make sense with what he's speaking of. And when we have teachers, speaking about teachers, I've had teachers during school hours respond to posts that I make, okay? During school hours, respond to posts that I make, who is related to our PIO, so they should know better. So when these things are happening, this is, when you talk about partisanship, there's two parties right now. It's not right or left, okay? It's establishment versus the community. Those are the two parties that are at stake right now. That's the partisanship going on. And I think what you're fearing when it comes to social media is 600 people here sending letters saying, hey, you know what? You're right about the stuff that you're saying at that school board meeting, and we've had enough. We've had enough of all the stuff that you guys are doing. So it's not about what's going out on social media. And I've also requested, FYI, because I'm sure that this has to do with my social media, right? So I've requested for that social media page to be reverted to me.
That's perfect, that's a
So,
perfect way to deal with it.
That's a perfect way to
I
deal with
love
it. I
that.
agree with that.
Because at the
So-
end of the day,
Madam Chair, can I please speak?
yes, thank you.
All right. You're turning it, I tried to keep this very professional and say there was an issue.
You did.
And you're turning it into something I deliberately did not want it to be. I didn't mention any board member. We have rules, the state has rules. You cannot use public property for political reasons.
And I think it's
And there are things that are showing up that would violate that, all right? Now, I told you I will talk with the board member. If there's a problem, then it continue, I'm just gonna bring it back to the board. But there's no other agenda there than that, all right?
Maybe not on your behalf.
Well, it's me that I'm dealing with it, all right? If there's other agendas, you can deal with those people, but not when I'm trying to deal with the issue that's in my lap and keeping this system in compliance with applicable law.
I'm ready to move on.
We create the issue, we create an issue where we're gonna talk about something, and it's clearly one person. Maybe you have been professional, Frank, I'm not arguing with that. But you're carrying the water, right? For somebody who's complaining in staff is complaining, oh, someone is using the page to make a political statement. We're elected. And there's no statements that I'm making that are right or left. It's gotta be me, I imagine.
Mr.
It's not me. Let me
Walker,
just-
I'm gonna, if I may, I'm gonna ask you, if the
Yes.
board is okay with it, to bring this back to the board with board rules for us locally, as well as what statute says, what board members, how we are supposed to conduct ourselves, because there's no agenda. There's policy and there's statute, and I need us to understand that, not just on the dais, but also the public. So, and I think that that's where we're gonna end the conversation.
And you can do what I'm about to say at a workshop or at the board meeting, but I wanna talk to you about Rule 2.70. I have never seen a rule like this anywhere, and it's being used, in my opinion, for legitimate reasons and for what I call political illegitimate reasons. And that is the ability of someone to file a complaint saying that a board member has harassed or discriminated them, and then requiring under the rules that I hire an outside person to investigate it. There is a state ethics commission that does investigations if there's a violation of your role as a board member. And there's a state attorney's office. This rule, I said it long before we had a problem, you are all politically elected. You're in a political environment, whether anybody likes it or not. This rule lets anybody allege anything and open the door to investigations, right? I've got 3 more that I have to deal with, right? And it doesn't give me as the general counsel the ability to go, we're not the appropriate body, this should be sent to the ethics commission if you want it dealt with or not. And so I'm gonna talk to you about that rule and give you some proposed revisions. We don't need to talk about it tonight, but I do not want my board, any one of you, subject to abuses from complaints. And that's not to say there aren't legitimate complaints given, but there's gotta be some governor on it that gives me as the general counsel the ability to say, no, the proper forum for this is the ethics commission, it's not us. Okay, so, right.
Mr. Melendez has a comment or a question.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yeah, because in general, I don't like the concept of the same board investigating itself, just in general concept. So the fact that there's third parties out there, like the Commission of Ethics or the State Attorney's Office, or whoever that third party may be, I think that's the more appropriate way to handle that. So I do agree that modifying Rule 2.70 doesn't abdicate a person's ability to launch a complaint, but just the fact that the school board shouldn't be investigating itself. You know what I mean? So, because there could be inherent biases on whoever the parties are. I think that is the more neutral stance, to sit there and say, okay, launch an investigation in an appropriate venue, be it the state attorney or be it some other third party like the Commission of Ethics.
I think you're supposed to lead by example, and you guys are a very poor example, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kloppenmacher, did you have anything else under your comments?
Nothing further.
Did you want? Mr.
One other
Arguello?
item, I do want to clarify something I
Yeah.
haven't noted. Mr. Arguello did not mean to imply when he was talking, by the way, that you all violated the sunshine. When he said you had all agreed, you meant in a legally noticed closed session on collective bargaining, where you gave direction to staff. I then advised staff that before they could actually implement that direction, the way the board wanted it, the board had to vote. So they brought it to you for a vote. So everything was done legally.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Arguello, you have one more comment?
No, withdrawn.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we're on to new business, and just so that we reiterate what is on the item agenda, we have the SAC meeting reimbursements by Mr. Bass, PA system by Mr. Melendez, Mr. Allen by Mr. Melendez, and we have investigation. Is this something that we already agreed not to do?
At the last meeting.
Investigation number 4?
I just put on new business.
Okay, would it be appropriate to add under board member comments? Does this
Fine.
require action from
No,
us?
that's fine.
Okay, can I move that to board member comments, please? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bass.
Oh, yes, this just came up this past week, I just heard about it, there's been a commitment from this board to, allocate $1,000 towards the field trip for the Liberty SAC, and, back in October, and that has not been funded yet, so I was just wondering, I don't know if we can vote on that, I want the parents to be able to get the money back, because, you know, it's not raising money out there, and the board can pay for it, or I can go out and pay for
Can
it.
you remind me?
It was for a STEM, field trip, the Liberty High School SAC committee apparently was trying to raise funds for that.
They come to the meeting for that?
They didn't come to the meeting, they spoke with the board member had
Committed $1,000.
dollars. And which I think is great, but I just, it's from what I've been told.
Was that the same one that we were approving out-of-field trips or something like that?
No,
It's
no,
one of the
no,
department-
they come
John can probably explain it, I
Okay,
just.
so it's a different.
Okay, Sarah, help us out.
I have been given no direction to fund anything.
Can we table that?
We can, and I just
When
want
When
I
is,
mean, I don't know how to, this is something unique, so I don't know exactly how to approach it. I just want the parents to get their money. That's what the
Okay.
parents of SAC
Do
to get
you-
their money, that's it.
what's the activity?
It was a field trip that they were planning for STEM. It was back in October, so they got the commitment from the board member, and so they went in and funded the field trip. The
Oh.
field trip has occurred, and now
So they just need to be
I just want to
reimbursed for
reimburse.
that.
Madam Chair, you have the ability as the board to say, we can, by consensus, Dr. Pace, would you please take care of this? There are
Yes.
funds available.
I mean,
in
if the
district.
promise was made by,
That's
that's all of
yeah,
us, so
and-
I would say by
Let's not make
consensus
a
we should.
habit of it, it's
No,
just
that's fine.
something that needs to be addressed, that's all.
Yeah, so, I mean, totally out of order.
I know,
Well,
I said, since it's something different, I don't know that we need to put it on the next agenda. If it's
No,
something
I
different,
think it's a
think
consensus.
We can
do
do
a
that, it's
consensus.
consensus of the board.
Are you
I'm
okay
okay with it, yeah.
Okay, that's all, I just wanna make sure.
If
that-
somebody can get me the information, cause I know nothing about this.
Okay.
Did everybody else agree that consensus is not too low?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, okay, alright, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bass.
It was actually probably Mr. Bass may be able to do it more, I just wanted to support him. So I think a PA system is important, by having a gym and a facility, students need to be able to communicate and people should be able to hear. So I don't know how much a PA system would cost before I sit there and say, hey, let's go with this.
Before we decide to fix something,
I talked to Mr. Godfrey, and I told him, let's first put in a work order, and then I also spoke to Mark Cavaney, and he says, you're going to be expecting a work order, let's see if we can't fix it, put a good strong Band-Aid on it for right now, and then by the end of the year, we can have some funds raised to purchase a new one and install it for them.
Yeah, and if we wanna like, I don't know, just a consensus at this point, not to do it, like say we raise like half, like say if they raise money, and we like match them or something like that.
Let me
Say, hey, they're do something.
I'm not loving the way that this is going. Just because there's a lot of things that are out of order.
Let me work on this.
And I appreciate, I totally appreciate it.
I do appreciate
Yeah.
that, but we're still looking at different vendors and see if we can get the best price, and so, let me work on this.
Can we maybe bring that back?
Yeah, or at the very minimum, yeah, we can, and I guess in general, I guess what I'm saying is, if we could prioritize that on maintenance, because I do believe a working PA system is important. So however that is on the schedule, because it might have been down the pike or something like that.
It works, it just sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, so I think that's the whole concept, they want more clarity in the gym. It's bad,
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I just want the record to reflect, I'm not giving this microphone then.
Oh, no, you can keep it, we know how to project. Okay, so you're working on that, Mr. Bass, thank you. You also had something about Mr. Allen, is Mr. Allen here, did he leave? Mr.
Oh, he
Allen
left,
left.
okay, well, he left.
Oh,
He looked like he was in a rush, he was throwing candy out there, everybody, you know, I've been on the board before, and, you know, the union is an integral part of the school district, you know, whether you like it or you don't. They represent a block of teachers, or they represent Teamsters, they represent employees in the district. And so, you know, I was the one at the time when we actually did a superintendent search, I actually had one member of the union, teachers union, one member of Teamsters on that selection committee to participate. They went to defining vote, there was like a 11-person committee, but they each had some kind of representation to say what was important. And when I see Mr. Allen, like rushing like 3 minutes, to me, he's not just like the general public, he's a part of the district. And I guess I can ask Frank for like the legal ramifications of that, because I appreciate that. But I just believe how we have an agenda, we say, this is what our HR director thinks, this is what business and finance thinks, this is whatever. I think that we should owe them that kind of respect, to sit there and say, okay, Mr. Allen, you know, whether he wants to designate somebody else, to kind of formalize it and not be rushing through everything in 3 minutes, because to me, I just think that I value the role that they bring to the table. And it's just discussion, it's just one person, but I just think that we do that for our HR director, our business and finance and everything else, that kind of reserving a spot for them to be able to say what they gotta say or present things in a professional manner. To me, I think it's a courtesy that I don't mind instead.
Madam Chair, could you let me get with Mr. Lemus on that and talk about the different issues, and we'll come back?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? We good? We're moving on to board member comments. I know that Mr. Arguello had a comment, so I'll go ahead and start with him.
Yeah, so I actually have a series of comments. Regarding the investigations, so obviously there's these investigations, they're not gonna stop, right? As long as I don't shut up, these investigations won't stop. So these investigations won't stop. Like I said, I don't know if this is political, but I did put up, if the investigation is created by the school board, then I should be able to use my school board Facebook account to say, fight this investigation and let us know what you think. There's nothing partisan about that, nor have I said anything partisan on my school board page. So whatever, I mean, everybody can look at that. Before I go further, I actually wanted to take the time, I wanted to apologize to my fellow school board members. Last time, I think at the last meeting, I said go to hell. I said I wasn't afraid to tell you to go to hell, but I think everyone in the room deserves a little bit better, regardless of how I feel personally. And I'm not apologizing for what I'm saying or the content of my complaints. But certainly, if we treat this days with more seriousness, then maybe the district will get a little bit, maybe our students will treat their district a little bit more seriously. However, that's just not about the words that I choose to use to air my complaints. It's also about the work that you guys are doing. You're talking about the work that we're not getting done. The work that we're not getting done, I think revolves around safety and security at our schools. You heard a parent say earlier, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. I had a parent reach out to me yesterday and say, hey, I got a voicemail that says that this is on lockdown. I called Tanya and I said, hey Tanya, was there anything about a lockdown going on? Nobody knows. So if there's a lockdown going on, parents are getting voicemails, there's a lockdown, nobody tells this, a school board member that there's a lockdown. Usually we do, but not this time. Obviously, it just points to a lack of formality on the things that are deadly serious, right? Also, they're watered down half of the time. So somebody says, oh, a student had a bump on the head today. Student was thrown on her head by an SRO. A little bit more serious than is projected in the communication that we get. We should be communicating immediately, transparently, and with high quality to the public whenever something happens. Now, and here's the thing, this is the world that I come from. If you're talking PR, you hesitate, you do this, you paint it in a nice color, and then you release it. But our job is not PR. Our job is to serve the parents and protect the students, right? And we're not doing a great job. Certainly, when I was on Facebook Live at Canoe Creek K through 8, and I was helping kids across the street because there's no crossing guard, there was nothing political in that statement. It was me flabbergasted at the idea that we're allowing kids to cross the street. And for 15 or 20 minutes, it's just straight pandemonium, kids between cars, like a game of Frogger. It was incredible. And to know that we knew about it and didn't do anything about it is mind-boggling to me. These investigations, how can we be taken seriously up here, okay? We have a complaint here. Maybe this is a false complaint of sexual allegations against a student or something. But not all of them are false. We have a series of complaints and a history of complaints against the school district. Okay? 2021, three district employees arrested for sex crimes. Okay? In 2021, there's the article, right? 2019, Osceola sub, molestation charges, right? 2018, Osceola County teacher's aide arrested for admitting to having sex with student. Here's the thing. If you want to do something about that kind of crime, which safety and security is the most important work that we should be doing, then how, on God's mighty earth, can you have Mr. Horner as our lobbyist representing the school district who supported the illegal sex trade? How do you bring him on board and defend him when you have articles like these going out? How do you do it? So when I say something like I lose my temper, I lose my mind, and I'm like, hey, you can do this or you can do that or whatever, you guys are defending someone who supported the illegal sex trade. And Chairwoman, you were in Tallahassee with him. Seen by many of my friends, hand in hand with somebody who, that's a fact, you don't have to, you can wait your time.
Hold on.
So here's the thing, so
Who
you're.
was I advocating on behalf of? And
You
who was I lobbying?
I'm more concerned,
Who was I
I'm speaking still, Thank you, I have the floor.
Hold on, point of order, Mr. Kroppenbacher, point of order. The challenge with when you speak, Mr. Arguello, is that you make allegations that we cannot refute because we are trying to be professional.
Okay.
You just told us all to go to heck last week and we just sat here and took it. And now you're making an allegation that I'm supposed to be some kind of in cahoots with who? He's our lobbyist and
Yes,
I went
he is.
to,
He's not even a lobbyist.
Why is he our lobbyist is the question. Why is this man our lobbyist? That's exactly what I'm saying.
You can speak, hold on, okay? Time out. Mr. Arguello, you can say whatever you want to say. I am going to, let me finish. I'm gonna ask you to be respectful to the rest of the board. Clearly, I was there advocating on behalf of our students, and the fact that you're going to bring that up to tarnish what the work that's been doing on behalf of our students, I take offense to that, okay?
I take offense to you having someone who supports the illegal sex trade operation as lobbying for the school district. That's my concern.
As someone who is running their sister
And
against
He's not a
them. There's your
registered
sound
lobbyist.
bite.
So here's the, thank you, and here's the problem. I didn't make any accusation beyond the fact that you were in Tallahassee with someone who supports the illegal sex trade, representing our schools. So to me, that's a problem.
John,
I'm gonna continue,
No,
Mr. Krumbacher.
just hang on, let me say one thing. Each board member, please don't interrupt. If you wanna respond to what any board member says at the end of whatever they're saying, just jot it down.
So just continue to
And then
take
respond.
your
Members of the
views.
public, be
Take your
quiet,
views
or I
perfectly.
will ask that the board chair remove you, all right? This is where the board deals with itself. We've gotta have order and decorum in here. Okay, so, Mr. Arguello?
Point of order,
Yes.
it does decorum mean that we're not going to abuse fellow board members, as has been done probably in every single school board meeting since 2020? I'm just asking for a couple of fronts.
Decorum means that you don't interrupt anyone. When they're done, you can address what they've said.
So we're okay with tarnishing people's reputations and saying lies on the
Well,
dates, got it, okay.
The problem is, you're not going to stop that by interrupting anyone. It's just gonna go back and forth arguing. By letting people say what they're gonna say, the board can then decide to respond to that board member and in any way they want, and then go on. Now, I will tell you, I've lived through this once in my career, and I ended up recommending to the board that they put a time limit in for every board member. All right, so let's raise above it. Mr. Arguello, you were talking.
Yes, sir. So, here's a gentleman, and here's the problem when you invite someone like Mr. Horner to represent students. Aside from the fact that if it doesn't catch your moral compass and say, you know what, this is wrong, when we have issues like this, then we shouldn't have someone like this at the school board. The person that he's embracing here, Mr. Horner, is Mr. Kalish. Mr. Kalish just submitted a grievance, an investigation, to have an investigation against me. Mr. Kalish runs some organization called, I don't know what, but he dresses up like Batman and he's hugging kids. So Mr. Kalish also is a felon. So now, Mr. Horner is hiring, from what I understand, a surrogate to perform, to basically fight against, so you're giving guy, and this is the guy that you gave a bus to, right? He and his wife, okay, I think he was trading a car for guns when he was a felon or something like that. These are serious charges. Parents, right, who may have a felony can't go to their kids' games. They can't volunteer at their kids' school. But we have felons here at doing this work, hugging our kids and taking pictures and then making money off of it. So I don't know how that, I want an explanation. I'm not gonna bring this up every single time because how you allow this to happen. We have parents who cannot come to volunteer for their kids, but we have a lobbyist who supports illegal sex trade. And then we have this gentleman here who is a felon who wouldn't imagine that he could pass the background check to be in our schools. And I think that he was given a waiver or something like that so that he could. And now he's filing thing. And then the other person, the other executive of this organization, who was these are the individuals, okay? Urinating in a police car. These are the people that you're choosing to bring and defend, but the people who are doing good stuff, you guys are leaving hanging to dry. You guys don't like people to ask questions, but this is all true. This is all public record, okay? And unlike the accusations against me, this is not false. This is all real. This is all real. This all happened. Even our not such great reporters covered this and put this out there, okay? So you're gonna keep sending and having your surrogates, because at this stage, that's the only way I can view it. Mr. Horner is a surrogate. Now, you guys are using your lobbyists to perform a political action against me, fighting me because of the questions that I'm asking here. And let me drive this point home here before I finish. I had a meeting, I've had several meetings with Dr. Pace, okay? I had a recent meeting with Dr. Pace, and Dr. Pace sat across the table from me, and she gave me a warning. Essentially what she told me was, it's time to shut your mouth. And if you don't shut your mouth, then we're gonna go public on you. And guess what happened next? Mr. Horner files his lobbying investigation. The news is here ready to cover, coincidentally, the news is here ready to cover it. So, okay, it's coincidence. It's coincidence. But all of these The other person who filed an ethics complaint against me on the board of the same organization of the fellow who dresses like Batman, all right? The other one, someone who, from an HOA group who files, you know, and then what does she use? The same information that the guy from Batman uses, right? So we're gonna keep going. Now, so I'm gonna be found, according to our investigations, guilty over and over and over again of violating school policy, okay? But when somebody kicks down my door and is screaming at me with their finger in my face, that's not a violation or intimidation. But me, okay, I'm gonna get pinged for this over and over again. So here's the bottom line. I'm gonna keep doing my work. I'm not gonna give up, because as long as I get over and over and over again the public coming to me and saying, you know what, don't stop what you're doing. Don't stop what you're doing, keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't let them rest, don't let them do it, don't let them get away with it. And when I hear that, and then I have kids telling me that I'm their voice, you're damn right, I will be your voice. I'll be the public's voice because they don't have another one on here. And until someone has the courage to say, you know what, we're gonna square away this, we're not gonna have felons here anymore, we're not gonna have people that support the illegal sex trade anymore, we're not gonna be giving contracts to our buddies anymore, then I'm gonna keep going. So you keep filing your complaints. I think we already know that the governor's not gonna do anything about these complaints, right? We imagine that the governor's he's not gonna come down here and say, you know what? We're gonna get involved in this. It's something that lacks so much seriousness. But at the same time, I don't appreciate being threatened by the superintendent. I don't appreciate being threatened by anyone here. Mr. Bass, I'm gonna dispute what you said. You and I did meet and we had coffee and you did tell me that you were gonna follow that advice. That's the thing that people need to remember. Mr. Horner sat across from me and we had a cup of coffee, and Mr. Horner did tell me that he put you in that chair. He said it. So if you're gonna be upset with someone, you be upset with Mr. Horner. Don't be upset with me. You be upset with Mr. Horner. And so you can go ahead and you can do it. If you think that I'm the one that's lying, that's fine. But you know what? There are other politicians who came and they said the same thing to me. They gave me the same advice, you know, and I think that in the end, what this is demonstrating is that the people are believing me because I'm exposing you guys for the lack of work that you're doing when you're talking about work.
The lack of work. So I would like to, it's really a moot point to sit here and talk about anything after something like that, which happens every single meeting. When this started, I said, we are eroding the public trust and it's going to cost us dearly. And people laughed at me. People in the public laughed at me. People said I was hysterical. People here laughed at me. They said I was overreacting. And it's been 2 years of constant derailment of the conversation. And we have been told to rise above it because we are supposed to be the bigger people. And I'm getting a little tired of it. We need to figure out a way to have a school board meeting where we talk about children. If there are other things that are happening that need to be addressed, they do not need to be addressed in the school board meeting. We have how many children? Over 72,000 children that we are not paying attention to because we are constantly talking about these noisy things that have nothing to do with education. We need to figure out a way to do work, guys. I'm sorry. Go on. And we're gonna end the meeting because we're not doing anything.
I only want to put in the record one. These 3 matters were assigned to the former president of the Florida Bar from Tampa, William Schifino. He has been directed to limit his review to whether or not what's alleged violates Rule 2.70 and address that issue. He is one of the most objective people I know. And I deliberately went out of town and said, you know, I'm just gonna go to somebody who's mega respected within the bar. I told him he is to record and or have a court reporter and or record by tape any interview he does if he decides that it merits any review, and I'll talk to you all about 2.70 later. The second thing is I will now tell the board that I contacted law enforcement. I'm tired of hearing about corruption from different people. I've given them a list of people to interview. I will be forwarding to them the issue of whether to look into whether or not anybody is conspiring with Mr. Horner to attack any board member. And if so, does that rise to the level of criminal activity? I am not going to have this system, which I represent, damaged by people making lots of allegations, some of which may be true. I'm not here, all right? And some of which I know are not true, because I've looked into some things, all right? But at the end of the day, I want you to know that I believe it was my role as general counsel to look out for this board, which is looking out for the system. And I will be reporting the latest, and what develops.
Okay. Mr. Melendez, and I think we need to end this meeting.
Yes, I know, and I apologize, cause, you know, it kinda got usurped, but, actually I met with the St. Cloud Police Chief, and he had coffee with the cop, and then we had spoken with some of his folks out there about the issue with Canoe Creek Charter. You know, and one issue that they have is there's no school speed zone limit lights to slow it down. Cause I guess before it was a charter, and I don't understand why charters are treated any differently. If we're actually building a physical school, I think they should, the cities or the counties should be able to have those speed limit zone lights out there. So that is something that they're addressing with right away. And we also spoke about, really, they shouldn't be crossing the street at there anyway, because it's a dead end. You know, there's no, there's a wall, it's Wade's Creek, you're not getting anywhere. You know, we have sidewalks on that side, but he mentioned something about there's culverts or something like that, that are over that.
Randy can answer that, I believe, on the culverts out front.
So,
They're gonna
removing
remove
them,
There was discussion last week, because we spoke to the county and said, you came along and you filled in the ditch and you put a nice grass thing, you invited them to cross the street.
Right.
So my understanding is that they had some discussion last week about removing it. I don't know that that's gonna help, because I think the 12 kids that cross the street there already have established it's happening.
Right.
I think there are
now can we-
flashing lights though in the.
no, there's not school zone flashing lights, so if we could petition the county to put them on both sides, you know, whatever the radius is, if they can do that. And then the other thing I would like to ask for Mr. Sotero respectfully is, they're not supposed to, I get it, but until the crossing walk is put there, cause they have to have like a traffic study and everything like that, can we at least put a sign that says, hey, kids, don't cross? And so at least we kind of shield ourselves from liability to say, hey, if a kid sees the sign that says, do not cross here,
That's a
then
good idea.
at the very minimum, hey, it's not on our hands, cause, you know, they're
Yes,
not
it is,
supposed,
though.
but they're
That
still
is a
not
good
supposed to
idea.
cross it though. And there's sidewalks, and the thing is, there's sidewalks on that side of the street too, on both ends. So if the kids stayed on the sidewalk and then crossed later on, where they're supposed to cross, then that could kind of get mitigated. At the very minimum, that's something that we can do right now. It's a simple sign, you know, put the speed signs, and then I guess, I don't know if the SRO is allowed to park out there. That was a different issue, and I didn't feel that was my place to tell them. You know what I mean? I just wanna let you know that I am working on that, you know, and so it is being addressed, and it's complicated because it involves the city of St. Cloud County, because I understand that road is a county road, so they can't even do the signs. It's the county commission that has to approve the speed limit signs to come in, and we're working with the department at the same time.
Thank you.
Officially, Madam Chairman, what I'm hearing is that the board wants us to officially ask the county to get, if they don't have them, to get it all in there on the 6th.
At least the school speed limit zone signs, the flashing lights that when you're driving during school hours.
Great, sounds like you have direction, and I think we've said enough in this meeting, so this meeting stands adjourned.
Yeah,